All right, let's dive into one of the most famous productivity systems out there, David Allen's Getting Things Done, or GTD for short. Now, this isn't just about cramming more tasks into your day. It's a whole new way of thinking, designed to help you feel amazing about what you're doing, and maybe even more importantly, what you're choosing not to do. It's all about finding that sweet spot of stress-free productivity.
Man, that quote just hits home, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of, well, internal chaos. That little voice that's always nagging you about a million different things. GTD is really all about taking down those mental outposts, one by one, so you can finally clear your head for the things that really matter. So, where does all this pressure even come from? Let's get into the root cause of why we all feel so overwhelmed these days. And as you're about to see, the nature of work today is a completely different beast than it was in the past. This right here is the core of the problem. Think about it. A long time ago, work had clear, defined edges. You plowed a field, and when the field was plowed, you were done. Simple. But today, our work is just boundless. A project can always be a little bit better. A presentation can always be more polished. And this lack of a real finish line creates this constant, humming, low-grade pressure. Okay, this is a really crucial idea in GTD. It completely reframes how we think about stress. The system says stress doesn't come from having too much to do. Not really. It comes from all the broken agreements we make with ourselves. Every single time you think, I should really fix that, or, oh, I need to call so-and-so, and then you just don't, you're creating a little broken promise in your mind. So that's the mess we're in. But the good news? The GTD solution is actually pretty simple. It's not about working harder or longer. Nope. It's about fundamentally changing the relationship you have with your own mind. Let's see how that works. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. This is the absolute core philosophy of the entire system. Your brain is an amazing, brilliant idea-generating machine. But you know what it's absolutely terrible at? Being a filing cabinet. When you try to use your brain to hold all of your ideas and to-dos, you just clog up the engine and create a ton of mental friction. Think of it like this. Your mind reminds you that you need new batteries right at the moment the flashlight dies in the dark, not when you're walking right past the battery aisle at the grocery store. See? It reminds you of things at the absolute worst, least useful moments. That's why your mind is a terrible office. You need a system you can actually trust. So what do we call all that stuff that's just rattling around in our heads? Well, the GTD system has a great name for it, an open loop. Every single call mom, fix the leaky faucet, plan the quarterly report, if it's stuck in your brain, it's an open loop. And each one of those loops is constantly draining a little bit of your mental energy, 24/7, until you finally close it. So the big question is, how do we close all these open loops and finally get some control back? Well, the GTD method gives us a super practical 5-step framework to master our entire workflow. These are the 5 stages. Simple, right? Now, for today, we're going to focus on the first 2, capture and clarify. Because honestly, getting these 2 right is where the real magic happens. It's the foundation for everything else. Step 1 is to capture everything. And I really mean everything. Every little idea, every task, every maybe someday project, all of it. Get it out of your head and into what GTD calls a trusted in-tray. This could be a physical inbox on your desk, a notebook, a digital app, whatever works for you. The whole point is to teach your brain that it can finally let go because it trusts that everything is safely stored somewhere else. Okay, let's talk about procrastination. You know that feeling. You look at a huge project on your list, something like due taxes, and your brain just freezes. You go do something else instead. Why does that happen? Well, it's probably not because you're lazy. This is the real culprit. We procrastinate because our brain has no idea what doing that thing actually looks like. I mean, due taxes isn't a single action, is it? It's a vague outcome with dozens of hidden steps. Our brain sees that vagueness, gets completely overwhelmed, and just shuts down. And this leads us to the single most powerful question in the entire GTD system. For any item, any project, you have to ask yourself this. What is the very next physical action? Not due taxes, but call accountant to book appointment, or find folder with last year's receipts. See the difference? Suddenly, that huge, scary monster of a project becomes one small, easy, manageable step. Now, as you start defining these next actions, you'll find that a surprising number of them are actually super small. And that brings us to one of the best little tricks in the book for building momentum, the 2-minute rule.
The rule is just as simple as it sounds. If the very next action will take you less than 2 minutes to complete, just do it right then and there. If you're going through your inbox and see an email you can reply to in 90 seconds, just do it. Don't file it away for later. Honestly, it often takes more time and energy to organize and track a tiny task than it does to just get it done. This one habit can clear out a huge amount of mental clutter.
So, let's say you're doing all this. You've captured everything, you're clarifying your next actions. What's the ultimate goal? What's the big payoff? Well, it's a state that David Allen calls mind like water. Picture a perfectly calm pond. If you toss a tiny pebble into it, the water ripples just enough, then returns to calm. If you throw a huge boulder into it, it splashes, appropriately, and then returns to calm. Your mind can be just like that, ready for anything, overreacting to nothing. And it's all because you finally trust that your external system is handling all the details. I love this quote. It's about rowing, but it's a perfect metaphor for what this state of flow feels like. It's not about gritting your teeth and trying harder. It's about removing all that mental friction. When your system is truly working, you're not forcing productivity anymore. You're just being carried along by it, in this amazing state of effortless control. And that, right there, is the whole point. The goal isn't to become some kind of productivity robot who just checks off tasks all day. It's about being fully present, fully engaged with whatever you choose to do, because you know deep down that all those other open loops are safely captured and waiting for you in a system that you absolutely trust. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Just imagine for a second that all the mental energy you currently spend just remembering things, worrying about things, and nagging yourself, imagine all that energy was suddenly freed up. What new ideas could you have? What bigger goals could you tackle? What could you really create if your mind was finally clear?